My earliest memory is riding in my grandfather's boat, arm over the side, hand in the spray. I've spent much of the rest of my life chasing this feeling. All of that has led to this, the wooden boat experience. It was a Friday, like many, except really foggy. Outside, mostly on the river, and also inside my head, after finally finishing editing last night's episode at 3:30 in the morning. I'm going to try to work my way out of this fog. Wish me luck. This week's episode will give you an idea of what it is like to produce a video each week. Spoiler alert, it's a lot easier to just restore your boat than it is to show the world how you do it. It is motivating, though, to know that people expect to see you and your progress every week. For the first time since the virus hit, I had some help. David Forward had an itch to scrape paint, and who was I to stop him? We kept our distance, and I stuck with a couple of the jobs that I still needed to get done. Each scarf serves two purposes. The end of the plywood will show around the transom, which is the look I want. They also are epoxied to each strake, restoring the strength of the stern end of the strakes, which had some rot. The bow end of each replacement has to be a feather edge. Getting each one to fit is a tedious process, but it's easier to get it correct now, rather than shaping it after gluing. The screws keep the transom end in place, but clamping the front took some creativity. I put a heavy coating of epoxy on before putting all the pieces in place. The excess epoxy is easy to trim off after it cures. I also used a couple of nails to temporarily hold the feather edges in place. Can it be only 5 episodes ago when I took these strakes apart? Who doesn't like to start the day with some nice, calming stripping of bottom paint? Maybe I'll hire a 3-piece jazz band to sit in the boat shed and play for me, so I don't have to listen to the same songs over and over again on the radio. Well, it stayed warm last night, and it's very warm in here today. I think it's time to take this apart and see how it goes. It's like the parts that were supposed to stick are stuck, and the parts that weren't aren't, which is good. Well, this is going to be my first use of TOTALFAIR. I've seen it used over on the Tips from a Shipwright channel, which I've gotten a lot of good tips and ideas and techniques from that channel. Really don't want to cross-contaminate this stuff, so be careful of that. So it's a 1-to-1 mixture, so you want to make sure you get it pretty close. Now, of course, as the accomplished artist that I am, I know that blue and yellow are going to equal green. One thing that Lou said over on Tips from a Shipwright is you'll never mix this exactly the same each time. So the layers are very visible when you're sanding because you'll have one green and then a slightly different green. So he said that's actually quite handy. Now this batch is turning pretty fast. I'm going to have to really go rapidly because I can feel it coming up a little bit already. It's not as smooth as it was originally. Kind of taking my time, turn the camera on, not paying attention. I definitely would not mix up a very big batch of this stuff at once. I might end up wasting some. So I think in my case, that thin coat, sand it, and another thin coat, which I'm going to put on right now, and that's what I went through the pencil and marked everywhere so I didn't miss a spot that I need to do it. And that's what I'm going to do with that, but it's sanded really easily. So I did this earlier this afternoon. It's 6:30, 6:45 right now. I started doing this about 3:30 this afternoon, and then I had to go to the post office. So this part cured, I worked from here down. And then this part, when I sanded here, a couple of these spots were still just a little bit, they started to roll off pieces rather than dust. So you know it's not quite cured yet, but it's within its window of curing time, and it's not, it was, I don't know, 78, 79 earlier in here, but right now it's come down a little. You know, it's 72 in here now, so the temperature's dropping, there's no sun on it. So I think the curing time is right with what they said. I really like it. I'm happy with how quickly it's dealing with these issues from the scraping and the sanding. So I think it's going to look great. I'll obviously spend more time sanding and worrying about fairing above the waterline. But down here, this is, you know, this and touching up the low spots is going to be good enough. It might take 3 coats out here, but they're going to be quick, thin coats. And the sanding is no time at all. I mean, this took me like 15 minutes to sand this maybe for this section right here. That's nothing. So, all in all, this Total Boat TOTALFAIR so far is good stuff. Before we cover all those screws up in each section, I go through and make sure I didn't forget to get rid of a stainless one or didn't tighten it up all the way. Just to double check. I think we didn't put the nut on that one yet. Guess we're going underneath the boat. And after we add that nut, we'll vacuum this off and spread some more fairing compound on. Now this temporary stainless steel machine screw was one stubborn son of a gun to get out. So I finally got this PM nut off. I couldn't turn this thing with the brace and bit or with a regular screwdriver or anything. So I got underneath and got the nut off with these vice grips, But then I couldn't get this thing out. I must have drilled the hole so that it actually threaded its way in. And of course it's white oak, the frame underneath, so it was stubborn. And of course, right to the bitter end. I think you can see here where we used a pencil, or I used a pencil, to mark the low spots after sanding. It's a good idea to do that because it's really easy when you get busy and you're putting some of this on to miss a spot or two, and then you got to come back later and fix that one, just that one little spot where you're hoping to have that area done. So it's a good idea to just go through and mark it. It gives you an idea of how good of a job you're doing on the sanding and on the application. Now I think, like Lou said on Tips from a Shipwright, how he would do it in one pass. I think if I had a brand new boat, I would put an effort into getting enough on there in the first pass. But I think on an old boat like this, there's a lot of little things that you have to do to it afterwards. And each layer you find new things and there's spots, and I just don't think it's as realistic of an idea on an old boat, at least not this old, as it is on a brand new boat. And Lou was working on a brand new dory when he was talking about that he had built. Definitely worth checking out that channel. Now it does warn you in the literature for this product that you don't want to let it sit too long without sanding it. And I did notice when I let it seems to be really best after about, well, in these temperatures anyway, half a day to a day. And I noticed after a full day, it is harder than it was at first, but I certainly haven't, they warn not to let it go days, and I haven't tried that yet, and I don't plan on it. Pretty busy this week, so what I'm trying to do is just in between things, come out here, do a little sanding, do a layer, add a new layer of this, and then come back, sand again, and seems to be pretty effective. And it beats the heck out of just sanding for hours straight. All right, I hope you can see here there's a pencil line. And what that is the water line, which I'm trying not to lose in this whole process. I don't want to fill it in with this stuff and then find out that I gotta strike a whole new water line. So as I go along, when I get an area that I feel like it's looking pretty good, and it may be a little premature on this area here, but I'm going through with a metal ruler and scribing so we keep track of it. Not very deep, but enough that when you put a coat of paint on it, you're going to be able to see this line. And this is just a cheap awl. You get them in a set of 3. They're really handy to have. Just about any tool place. I think they might even have them at Walmart. But any place with tools is going to have a set of these. One is bent at a 90 like this. One is straight, and the other one has kind of a hook to it. So you can see I'm getting that water line in there. Be very careful if you freehand it at all that you don't put a scratch in the boat, but there we go. We got it right down through here. And creating a new water line is not an easy job, so I was happy to find this, and I'm going to make sure that I keep it. See, this is the problem. I come out here to film an intro with you guys, and the next thing you know, I'm sanding this and marking the water line, and an hour's gone by, and it's Thursday morning, and I've got my work done in the studio, and I've got to get going on editing. And as you're going to see in this video, the editing takes a while. Everything takes a while, but the editing is the biggest chunk of time at one time. I'm really happy though with the way this has turned out compared to the way it looked originally, and the fact that I didn't just put in some filler, but we added pieces of wood here and then filled in the gaps. They're all epoxied together. This should be really strong. Let me show you guys a view of that. And one other thing, let me get you guys out of here. So that's what that is looking like right now. And it's got what I wanted here, the end of the board showing. I'm really happy about that. This is really coming along, this back section. Obviously there's a lot more to do on this other section over here. Oh, one other thing I got this week, which is pretty cool, you guys might like. This picture is an old picture, and you can see on the bow of that boat, and I believe this is, I think it is out in Chippewa Bay, I'm not positive, but those are war numbers on the side of that boat. And during the war they had big numbers like that so they could be identified easily. So that kind of dates this picture. I think that's Cedar Island in the background. I'm not positive. I gotta ask around a little bit about that. But anyway, it is Thursday. I'm about to head in and do the editing, and I'd like to welcome you to the Wooden Boat Experience. Well, today I'm wearing a t-shirt from my buddy Andrew's company, Bluefoot Diving. You can see it's one of the wrecks in the river. And I'm gonna put up a letter here from Kevin Cruz Hughes. Kevin, your sticker is on its way. And if you'd like to get your t-shirt featured on the Wooden Boat Experience, just send me one, either a large or an extra large, and I'll talk about whatever you're doing.